All right, let's set the scene. You're deep in the Alaskan backcountry, the kind of place where the map just turns white and the ridgelines seem to go on forever. Out here, the silence is so complete you can feel it in your chest. But you're not alone. You are not at the top of the food chain. Somewhere in that endless green, a 1,000-pound brown bear can cover 50 yards in the time it takes you to blink. And in that moment, the rifle you chose back home isn't just a tool for filling a tag, it's your life insurance policy. The men and women who hunt and guide in Alaska, they don't chase trends. They don't care about the latest, greatest marketing hype or what cartridge is winning competitions down in the lower 48. They trust what has been proven. They trust the cartridges that have stopped charges, fed families, and built legends across the North for decades. When you're operating in a place where the weather can freeze your trigger finger solid and your rifle is caked in wet snow, you don't get a second chance. You pick the tool that has earned its respect the hard way. So, what makes a caliber trustworthy in bear country? Is it just raw, unadulterated horsepower? Is it pinpoint accuracy across a windswept valley? Or is it knowing that when the temperature plummets and your hands are shaking, that round will still chamber, fire, and stop what's coming? The truth is, it's a brutal balancing act. You need enough power to anchor a charging animal right now, but you also need a rifle you can actually carry for 50 miles and shoot accurately. Today, we're breaking down the 5 rifle calibers that Alaskans have trusted with their lives. These are the rounds that define survival in one of the harshest, most demanding landscapes on Earth. The .338 Winchester Magnum. Let's start with the undisputed king of the Alaskan all-rounder, the .338 Winchester Magnum. You can talk to any seasoned guide from Kodiak Island to the Brooks Range, and when you ask what one cartridge they'd trust for almost anything Alaska throws at them, this is the name that comes up, again and again. It is the very definition of versatility. Most hunters are pushing bullets in the 200 to 250 grain range, but you've got factory-loaded options that stretch from a fast 185 grain bullet to a 300 grain sledgehammer. That flexibility is its true genius. You can load it light and flat to take a caribou or a sheep at long range. Or you can load it heavy with a premium bonded bullet for the deep, bone-crushing penetration you need for a big coastal brown bear. It carries enough energy to put a big bull moose down cleanly across a valley, and it has the authority to end a fight up close. Now look, it's a Magnum. It lets you know you're shooting it. It's got a bark. But the recoil isn't in that truly punishing class of the 4.58s or the big African Magnums. It's a recoil you can manage. You can train with it, and you can rely on it when everything is on the line. Winchester knew exactly what they had. When they first chambered their Model 70 in this cartridge, they didn't get cute with the name. They called it the Model 70 Alaskan. That rifle and this cartridge earned their reputation together, the old-fashioned way. It has earned its spot at the top of the list. The .375 Holland & Holland Magnum. All right, now let's take a step back from modern ballistics and talk about a living legend, the .375 Holland & Holland Magnum. Some rounds get their reputation from hype. This one earned it through history. We're talking about over a century of stopping charges that would have otherwise ended a man's life. Born in London over 100 years ago, this cartridge literally became the global benchmark, the yardstick, by which all other dangerous game cartridges are measured. And it is just as relevant and respected in Alaska today as it is on the plains of Africa. This is not a deer round. This is a tool built for animals that can fight back. Bullet weights for the .375 go from about 235 all the way up to 300 grains. And that 300 grain load? That is what the Alaskan guides trust when they're betting their lives. Thick hide, dense muscle, heavy bone. A 300 grain solid or bonded soft point from this cartridge doesn't just break through, it plows. But here's what most people miss about the .375. It is not just a close-range hammer. It is remarkably flexible. In the hands of a rifleman who's put in the time, it's a legitimate 300-plus yard cartridge. It shoots much flatter than people expect. That's why the .375 sits in such a rare class. It can handle both ends of the Alaskan spectrum, the sudden bear charge in the thick brush, and the long-range moose standing broadside across a river. 100 years later, it still hasn't given hunters a single reason to doubt it. The 300 Winchester Magnum. Now, let's jump forward to a more modern powerhouse, the 300 Winchester Magnum. This is the cartridge of the open tundra. This is the king of the long shot, across those frozen, windswept valleys where the wind never seems to stop. When you ask a hunter who works that wide-open country what they need, you'll hear three words: reach, precision, and authority. The 300 Win Mag delivers all three in spades. Most hunters are running it with bullets between 150 and 180 grains, but its beauty is its adaptability. You can load it light, or you can push it past 200 grains if your rifle is set up for it. Where this cartridge truly shines is at a distance. Across those glacier valleys, where the shot might not be 50 yards, but 300, 400, or more. This round stays flat, it stays fast, and it is predictable. With good optics and the right bullet, it hits with surgical precision at ranges where lesser calibers are starting to fall out of the sky. But here's the kicker. It does all that without punishing you like the heavier Magnums. It perfectly bridges the gap between a long-range precision tool and the heavy muscle you need if things go wrong. If a grizzly steps out of the brush while you're glassing for caribou, you are not undergunned. That's why so many Alaskans will tell you, if they could only have one rifle to do it all, the 300 Winchester Magnum would probably be it. The 45-70 Goverment. But let's be honest, Alaska isn't always about long, clean shots across a valley. Sometimes it's about encounters that happen so fast you don't have time to think. You turn around, and the only thing between you and a very bad day is a lever-action rifle and a cartridge that was born before the telephone. That's where the 45-70 Goverment steps in. This is a cartridge forged in the 1870s, and it is still a top-tier defensive round in the 21st century. Modern ammunition, especially the Plus P loads, has made this thing an absolute monster. Bullet weights range from 250 to over 500 grains, but the Alaskans who carry it tend to lean on those heavy 325 and 405 grain hardcast or bonded loads. This is not a long-range cartridge. Its effective range is short, 150, maybe 200 yards if you're lucky. But that's exactly where it shines. Thick alderbrush, tangled timber, the kind of country where your visibility is measured in feet, not yards. When a brown bear charges through that kind of terrain, there is no time for a rangefinder. There's no time to dial turrets. You need a rifle that comes up fast, cycles instantly, and hits like a freight train. At 20 yards, that massive 45 caliber slug doesn't just stop the threat, it ends it, instantly. And when you're guiding or living in bear country, that kind of absolute certainty is priceless. The 30-06 Springfield. But Alaska's story isn't just written by the big bores and the heavy Magnums. There's one more chapter. One cartridge that has been quietly and confidently filling freezers and saving hunts for over 100 years. Every hunter who's ever walked the northern timber knows this one by name. The 30-06 Springfield. If the 338 is the muscle and the 45-70 is the hammer, the 30-06 is the heart. It's the round that built America's hunting heritage, and it still holds its ground in the unforgiving North. Over a century of service, and it's still out there filling tags from the Kenai Peninsula to the Brooks Range. Its versatility is just incredible. You can load it with a 110 grain bullet and have a flat shooting rifle for deer or caribou. Step up to a 150 or 165 grain, and you've got a fantastic all-arounder. Push it to a 180 or even a 220 grain heavy slug, and suddenly, you are standing in the same league as the Magnums. You're capable of taking moose, bear, or elk, cleanly and without hesitation. Does it have the same raw, brute force stopping power as a 375 or a 338? No. But frankly, that's its advantage. It's easier to control. It's easier to shoot accurately. And let me tell you something. When the pressure is on, when your heart is pounding and your gloves are soaked, accuracy, shot placement, beats raw recoil every single time. The 30-06 doesn't punish you for training, and that means you can shoot it more, master it faster, and put every round exactly where it needs to go. That kind of confidence is what really matters. And then there's the practical side: ammunition. In Alaska, reliability isn't just about performance, it's about availability. You can walk into the tiniest hardware store in a village along the Yukon, and you will find boxes of 30-06 sitting on the shelf. That shared trust, that universal availability, it keeps the round alive and proves its worth year after year. It may not be flashy, but it just works. So there you have it. 5 calibers that have proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they have what it takes to perform in the last frontier. These aren't hype. These are the tools that have earned their reputation. What do you think? Is there a cartridge we missed that deserves to be on this list? What's your go-to rifle when the stakes are high? Let us know down in the comments. If you learned something today, do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay safe and shoot straight.